Perfect. All right. Well, thank you. Hope everybody had a good lunch. We could use some Bang energy drink right now, right? A little purple haze. So super excited to be hosting this panel. I thought it would be first best to have everybody introduce themselves and go over their roles. Let's do that. You want to start? Sure.
Sure. So I'm Hergul Arshad, head of North America, which also means bottom of North America, because myself and Peter over there are the entire North America operations for Aston Martin Formula One. Um, let's see. I'm speaking afterwards, so I got to be careful not to give too much away, or no one will come for the one afterwards. So I'll pass the microphone.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Viviana. I'm Digital Marketing Director at Bang Energy. I oversee paid media, organic, e-commerce, partnerships, and PR. My background has been actually in brand marketing. I've worked for companies like Mattel in Europe and Adidas at their headquarters in Germany.
Hi, I'm Dan Gray. I'm the ownership marketing manager at Ford Motor Company. I've been with the company for 19 years. We're standing up our ownership marketing team because we're doing a lot of new exciting stuff with ownership experiences, services, subscriptions, and over-the-air updates.
Good afternoon, Rana Ghosh here from Spirit Airlines, Florida's backyard airline. Head up Omnichannel, which means nothing to most people, so I'll give you a little bit of a descriptor. It's basically a combination of the ancillary revenue. So if you guys know the Spirit model, it's very much built around ancillaries. So that's all the bags, seats, vacations, all that kind of stuff. Also manage all the digital channels, the third-party channels like the Expedias, etc., and the guest care team, as well as the loyalty program. Glad to be here finally.
All right, great. Well, thank you for those intros. Digital consumer, connecting with the digital consumer can go a lot of different ways. So after we pre-huddled and came away from definitely some prevailing themes and wanted to cover that here, one of which is content marketing, whether it's during COVID, post-pandemic, and thought we had some great examples of that. And so I will hand the mic to Shergul to talk about his great example.
Yeah, I mean, content marketing in some ways put Formula One front and center in the United States with Drive to Survive, Netflix. So a few years back during the pandemic, people were sitting back wondering what to do, what to watch, and number one show became Drive to Survive. And it's directly translated to something crazy like 100 million fans now in the United States for Formula One. And before the pandemic, you might have had 10 million, and they're all moved over from Europe. So what's phenomenal about the content part of that, though, is that it's actually very difficult to replicate across any other sport. So now there's all these other sports trying to do, we can do a content series on Netflix, but the getting the content piece right, I think, is really difficult. I think you had a good point earlier with Diesel, and there's some of these things where we have this karma in that each team has two drivers, and they're the only guys with the same exact car. So they're kind of like frenemies, and your teammate's also your biggest rival. And so if you're not performing by the end of the year, you might not get a contract. So there's drama baked into the whole series, and it comes every year. And that's probably one great example. Now a lot of the teams are trying to figure out their own ways to build upon that and create their own content, and we can touch on that later.
Well, content marketing, when I used to work at Mattel in 2007, I remember that the number one strategy that came from the US was content marketing, number one priority, right? And so back then we shifted all of our strategy and not selling toys and making great commercials, but on actually creating shorts for YouTube for the kids to watch. And fast forward today, I'm working at Bang Energy, a brand that with only 10 years has achieved over 19.1 billion views on TikTok, thanks to its content marketing. I think that after COVID, what we have seen is the fact that content needs to be entertaining, exciting, and engaging. It's really hard and challenging for marketers to always, be on what's interesting for consumers, and understand that when we build content, we need to make sure that it's relevant and within the context of each platform. I would say that especially for TikTok, again, where we are very strong, we've learned that authenticity is key. Overproduced content underperforms, and that's why we have an in-house content team that's very young, very creative, and very agile when it comes to looking at trends and identifying creators we want to collaborate with to create content that's engaging.
Yeah, so at Ford, 3 years ago, we had the launch of the all-new Bronco, and this was something that we had teased a lot. We had created some content. In this case, it was a comedy mockumentary called John Bronco, who was the original pitchman for the original Ford Bronco back in the '60s. So this was in the middle of COVID, and we were planning on showing this at all the film festivals, but all those film festivals got canceled. So Hulu ended up picking this up, and this was a great, entertaining watch about the all-new Bronco and the story of John Bronco. And it was really entertaining. It was really hilarious. We had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Tim Meadows, Bo Derek, a lot of great celebrities. But we never showed the actual Bronco in that movie. We made a sequel to that called John Bronco Rides Again, and that was also a hit. But all this to say is that we wanted to make engaging content that got people excited, excited about the brand, bring in a new audience as well, maybe that they don't have the affinity to the Bronco brand, or maybe have just heard about it, but it was kind of like a history lesson as well in a humorous way.
Hey, Dan, real quick, I know you mentioned the great cameos of Bo Derek and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and then O.J. Simpson's Bronco actually made an appearance in there, right, as well?
I cannot confirm or deny that.
The most famous Bronco of all time. Hello, everyone. So on our side, we actually had a couple of so during the pandemic, for obvious reasons, we weren't flying. So certainly, that was pretty difficult at that point to get a lot of engagement with regards to some of the content. So what we actually did was we promoted a number of shorts, essentially, that talked about that really were just around fake flying. So people were just we would just create these vistas in people's homes, and they would look like they were sitting in a fake airport seat, and they would create kind of a situation behind them, or pretending it's the window, and they would create within the window what their favorite place was going to be. So it was an opportunity really to kind of just keep people engaged, people sort of thinking about the product, while we were obviously in the middle of a situation where there was absolutely no planes actually up in the air for a period of time. From there, we've been able to shift, and in 2021, we launched a major revamp of our loyalty program. And so a lot of our focus at this point has really been around creating content to talk about what our loyalty program can do. So really trying to really provide content around two things. One is around how you can earn points, how you can actually sort of drive, what kind of spending behaviors, what kind of things you can do to earn the points. But more importantly, what people care about, why they participate in loyalty programs, where you can go. And so a lot of the focus has been really around destination marketing and just sort of talking about what are some of the opportunities that people can do. We want to really sort of get people excited and inspired about where they can potentially fly to, which is obviously the kind of the driver of how they want to spend their money and then collect points.
Some great examples there, and just going back to Drive to Survive, which I'm sure a lot of you guys in this room have watched. 1 of 3 F1 fans started following the sport in the last 4 years, and we're on season 5 of Drive to Survive, and now 40% of the fans are women. So just goes to show what a show can do. Switching gears, or actually kind of following along on content marketing, social influencers I know are big, and wanted to have you guys comment a little bit about that and how you use them. You talked about authenticity and things like that, but just the use of that and how that's impacted your programs.
Yeah, we're very fortunate to have 2 drivers that are, coupled with their popularity and the brand's surge in popularity. I think we have over 22 million social media aggregate followers that we can reach out to. Fernando Alonso has become sort of a TikTok sensation overnight, not solely due to the rumors with Taylor Swift, although those certainly have helped. But you talk about sensationalism and obviously he's doing funny dances like the gritty, and he's working out at the gym, and there's stuff that we have the luck as being a pro team of having talent, but not every team is going to have essentially magnanimous stars. In fact, last year we had a great driver, Sebastian Vettel, who didn't want to be on social media. In fact, he wasn't on any social channels. That's completely fine, but it's less good for my side of the business because I'm out there talking to potential partners about joining Aston Martin. Like, why Aston Martin versus one of the other 9 teams on the grid, and selling the story around Formula One and the growth of North America. So having an icon like Alonso doing just a ton for us is huge.
And I'm a Fernando Alonso fan because I lived in Spain, so yeah, so social media, I mean, social media again for Bang Energy, it's what has brought the awareness for the brand and the visibility, and having the fact that we have had such a success in social media is what made us the third largest energy drink in only 10 years, tied, of course, to a great product. So definitely social media and influencer marketing are within our key pillars. I would say that everything that we do in marketing at Bang Energy is thought by social media first. It's completely the opposite towards versus other brands that I've worked with. Everything that we do, what we're gonna launch, what product, what flavor, how we're gonna attend to any doubts our customers may have, everything is thought of starting with social media in mind. And it's because we have such a big community that we've built thanks to our influencers. So one of the success of Bang Energy has been that back in 2010, it created a really strong influencer program. They're called our brand ambassadors. We have several tiers of brand ambassadors. And I heard before someone say, like, what level of control do you have on the content your influencers create? And I think what's been great about the brand is that the ambassadors actually love our product. They're passionate. They've believed in the brand since it started because it's of the fun and the functionality of the energy drink. And so they're pretty free on creating the content that they know will be relevant for their audience. We have a very large network that covers different niche, and that helps us not force our brand into the conversation on social media, but just be part of the conversation. And I'm sure if you open TikTok, you will see someone dancing with a Bang Energy on the side, or someone doing a split, or roller skating, or playing basketball. I mean, all the creators or influencers that are part of our brand do or pursue their passion, and that's part of our lifestyle. It's Bang Energy fuels their destiny and helps them pursue their passion.
Yeah, to Viviana's point, I mean, we typically like to have brand ambassadors who we have a long-term relationship with them, where they are creating content and it's very authentic to them. But with Ford, we've been in this space, since the early 2010s when we brought over the Ford Fiesta from Europe, and we had something called the Fiesta movement, where we had influencer type brand ambassadors just talk about this great vehicle that was brought over from Europe. But we just came out with this campaign around Built Ford Proud, where we tried to find influencers or people that had a deep tie to the brand, really authentic stories. So we really took 3 people and elevated their stories and had a real omni-channel communication strategy on this. But one was Kai Lenny, which is a big wave surfer out of Maui, who uses his trucks to tow his gear and use it in the islands. We also had a African American stunt driver who learned to race in her Ford Mustang. Her name was Dee Bryant. And lastly, we had Sydney Sweeney, who most of you know from Euphoria and White Lotus. She restored her 1969 red Ford Bronco, has a TikTok called Sid's Garage, and we partnered with her. We came out with a merchandising line where we partnered with Dickies as well, where Sid Sweeney has her own line of overalls and denim hats, and that all sold out in 31 hours. So we are going to see what we can do to. I mean, it was just amazing. So the power of influencing is pretty big in our space.
Social media. We have a very love-hate relationship with social media at Spirit Airlines. So we obviously recognize how important the channel is and the media is. But as for those of you that are familiar with the brand, you'll know that we take our share of hate on social media. But at the same time, in terms of when you talk about social influencers, we have a brand and a product that's actually fairly easy to get behind, in the sense that it is taking you to places that you want to go, and because we're a leisure brand and we fly to mostly leisure destinations, people are pretty excited. You know, when they get on our planes, they're either going to visit, they're visiting family, they're visiting friends, or they're going on vacations, and those are hard to get really all that down on. So the social influencers that we've been using have generally been already had kind of their own travel followers. So they were already kind of seen as individuals that were traveling everywhere. So it was a very natural fit for us to partner with some of these folks. And the ones that we've found most valuable to us in a sense has been the ones that have generally been that are from somewhere else. So if they're flying from if they're Colombian and they're flying to Colombia, there's a real story that can be told. It's not just simply going on vacation and sitting in a resort or an all-inclusive. They're actually getting into the cities. They're talking about the places they go to. They're talking about their favorite spots. Puerto Rico has been another one that has been wildly successful for us. We've got a soccer player both in Puerto Rico on a Puerto Rican soccer team as well as on a Colombian soccer team that constantly talk about the fact that when they're not playing soccer, they're traveling. You know, they're bouncing around on Spirit planes and going to different places. So what we've seen as a result of it is that, you know, I talk about a lot of the hate we get, but these guys kind of help bring us along, right? That when you've got something nasty to say about the Spirit brand, then these guys are like, you know, F you, they were great. We got to, you know, such and such a place, and I was able to bring a family of 8 down for $1,000, by the way, right? So it's and it's a way better to hear it from social influencers or social in general compared to hearing it from us. You know, we can talk about kind of our price point and the fact that, you know, there's a lot of value that comes with flying with Spirit, but it's way better to hear it from someone that people trust already.
Great. And then speaking of social influencers, I would love to ask the panel how y'all have incorporated or amplified your message using paid media, and then also measurement, and how do you guys measure success, and how you know, maybe some surprises when you did measure and some of the findings there.
So I won't touch on paid media because we don't do a lot of that. We try to do the opposite. We try to get paid. But with regards to, I mean, measurement for us, it's tracking all kinds of expected metrics, but also really deeply care about the engagement levels. I think we've seen something like 3.5 billion views to our stuff, but also we have a Nielsen measurement that measures engagement across all the different teams. And this year we've had the most engagement. And again, large part of that is Alonso and the success we're having as a team. We do look week on week, the gain in followers. So far this year, I think we're up 16%, something really crazy, like 1.5 million new followers just in the last month. And that number is more than twice what any other team has done. And we're having that sort of stride right now where the car is fast, the drivers are great, they're engaging personalities. We've also signed up a bunch of new partnerships and exciting partnerships. So there's news happening all the time, and those are really kind of exciting things to measure because the measurements are pretty good.
So paid media is interesting for us at Bang Energy. It wasn't really a need because of the focus that we've had on influencer network and on social media. But last year we decided to launch our e-commerce, and the reason is because after COVID, we realized that there was an increase of 20% of Gen Zers, our core audience, shopping online. We have, for those of you who do know, over 40 flavors, and of course, not of all flavors are available at all retailers. So that was an opportunity for us to launch our e-commerce as well as to gather first-party data and get to understand better the purchase behavior of Gen Z, the way they shop, the way they browse, what they're looking for, as well as their preferences in terms of product. Definitely, it has been helpful for us in terms of what we want to launch next. And so our focus on paid media, I would say, is primarily to drive conversions to our website, because that's one of our key goals. We want to get that first party data. What has been interesting leading the team of paid media is that, contrary to what we thought, that Instagram and TikTok would be platforms where we would see a higher ROAS, we found that actually Facebook is a great platform to convert, and it's probably 5 times ROAS as we've seen in other on the other two platforms. And also Google Ads, it's something that has worked very well for us for e-commerce. TikTok and Instagram is not that they don't work. It's just that we use them more for campaigns when we want to launch a new product or have a greater reach. And a learning that we saw there in terms of campaigns is that when we use the UGC content or influencer content through, for example, TikTok Spark ads, those have greater engagement and greater watch time versus other kinds of great productions that sometimes our content team does. So those are learnings that our marketing team has been taking, and I think what's great is that we're taking it all in. I really insist to my team that we have to be data driven, so we're looking at the data every 3 days and learning and scaling the campaigns that work better for us.
Yeah, and for us, it really depends on what type of campaign we're doing and the KPIs behind it. Some of that is awareness. Some of it is driving our customers down a purchase funnel. So it really depends. But I think the one thing that we really try to do is having a test and learn mindset, making sure that we're able to provide different options and make sure that we are constantly innovating and making sure we're optimizing as well.
Yeah, I would disagree with everything that everyone just sort of said. It sort of depends. Depending, the campaign drives or the metrics is based on the campaigns that we're putting out there. But the two things that we generally, obviously care about is how do we generate traffic to buying a flight or buying one of our products. But the second part is really around brand sentiment. That I mentioned earlier, kind of the sort of the relationship we have with the marketplace. That this sentiment matters, and we always are looking for what are the events that are controllable. So the things that we can kind of put out there that's our own, versus things that are somewhat uncontrollable, right? So when there's a freak weather storm in Fort Lauderdale that floods half the houses. Somehow people are still tweeting about the fact that F Spirit because they canceled my flight. We're underwater, you mother, whatever. But so we've got to kind of delineate a little bit around kind of what makes sense, what doesn't make sense. We've got a campaign right now as part of our loyalty program, and it's the Fly Free program. And one of the things that we're constantly tweaking on that is where do we kind of have our placements? What are the kind of the messages that we need to send in which market? Because we're finding that very specific markets seem to be much more engaged, and so on those ones, what are those key messages that are resonating? But they're different. Like as an example, some of the things we're seeing in the Northeast versus things that we're seeing out west are very different messages, and so we're starting to tweak our messaging to try to drive the interest in that program. And the key metric on that is how many people are signing up for the loyalty program, which ultimately then it makes them eligible to have this free flight or free flights for a year. But it's something that we're not staying static on it. We're continuing to sort of evolve on it as we go, so we can make sure that we're trying to generate the best returns we can.
Got it. So some great examples of success stories. I want to turn this around and look at greatest learnings from maybe a campaign that didn't go so well, and what did you learn, and how did you move on from these?
I've seen a lot successes and failures, but I think the most recent one, and it was a paid ad campaign that we ran last year for our new hydration product, was the fact that we wanted to, again, overproduce a campaign, the content, the creative. We took quite a lot of time, and it was intended for TikTok. So we found out the first week that the results were not at all good, and we quickly just grabbed a lot of UGC content that was out there, combined that with our influencer content, and put our, a quick shoot from our content team with the phone in the office of the product, and the ad probably performed like 5, 6 times better than the ad that we had thought of or planned doing for over a month. So again, I think that says a lot. When you're planning to do a campaign, it's crucial that you think on the platform and the audience that's going to be delivered first.
With my minute to reflect on this, I mean, I think it's kind of obvious in sports, but when you lose or you don't perform well, um, it doesn't matter if you've just come up with the best campaign. The results are going to be negative comments, and one of the things that we've found is this is our third year. Before we were a different team, so we're new to this. A lot of emphasis on social, but the first couple of years the results were rough. We're talking seventh, eighth, ninth type finishes, and when you're week in and week out finishing towards the bottom, even if you take a celebrity picture with Brad Pitt in the garage, or there's your drivers are with Green Day, you'll get just a stream of comments and social media, and oh, you should be focused on winning, and build a faster car. So it really, sports is really tied to, you might execute the same strategy, and obviously you take a different tone when you've had success or not success, but it is it's probably the most tangible measure of a successful campaign is winning.
Yeah, for me, I think in some of our one-to-one communications, we sometimes have missed the mark a little bit. When you purchase a new vehicle, I don't think many people want to think about bringing their vehicle back in for service, right? So that's the last thing they want to think about. And I think we were messaging that a little too early, whether they need new tires and new brakes or something like that. So we've adjusted, when those messages come out, just to make sure that the customers still feel like that new car feeling, and they're not thinking down the road when something needs to be replaced.
Yeah, I think on mine it's probably a little bit more like hergul. Is that we did a campaign, and I won't name the movie, but we did a campaign a couple of years ago. We partnered with Disney. They were releasing a new movie. We were super excited about it. There was all kinds of sort of good tie-ins to our product and our brand. We wrapped a plane. We did a ton of social media about it, and the plane sucked. The plane sucked. The movie sucked, and that was a Freudian slip. And it was one of these situations where suddenly you're sitting there with a lot of investment, a lot of kind of time put into this. Is this being recorded? Because I need to I need to edit that part, please. That we recognize some of the investments that we had put into this, right? That we really hadn't seen the same kind of data that our partner had seen with regards to kind of how this sort of played out in terms of the initial screenings, et cetera, et cetera. And then when you actually started seeing some of that data, you were like, oh, we should have anticipated some of this, right? And so it just kind of taught us to do a little bit more homework, not making the assumption that just because it's Disney that it would have been a guaranteed sort of outcome, that we probably should have seen some signs in there that would have suggested that we wouldn't have seen the outcomes that we would have.
What was the movie? You can name that.
I'm not going to say it.
Not gonna. All right.
I'll say it after the film stops.
After pause. Good. One of the topics we've been covering today is about trends and be able to react quickly to trends and to pivot and stuff like that. So wanted to kind of get your guys' insights on terms of how you see digital marketing trending, and where do you see the future headed?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone's talking about it, but AI and what's happening with ChatGPT and lots of the other platforms, I think is incredible and is going to be seismic differences to all of our businesses. There's just anyone who's kind of not thinking about it is behind the curve. And in Formula One, especially, I mean, we're such a technology driven business. I mean, there's uh, as often is reported, we have about 800 employees at Silverstone, plus two in North America, that are basically focused on making two cars go fast, right? And so most of those people are engineers, and the ability to now kind of use AI and do things that will both collapse time and save costs and get things done faster. On that side of the fence, then if you think about the advertising and marketing and sales side of it, again, incorporating AI and doing it faster, better than others can also provide a huge competitive advantage, because if you think about it, there's 10 other teams out there, and the teams that can figure this out faster may get a competitive advantage even on the grid. So um, we're quite excited about that and what the future holds. I think it's lots of folks are probably trying to figure it out, and I mean, I can't think of anything that's remotely close to that. But over to you.
Thank you. Well, definitely there are many trends. AI, of course, is one of them. How our team is currently tapping into AI is, we have a very young team, so it's having making them see that there's a possibility to start using ChatGPT for content ideas, content creation. So that's interesting to see. Definitely, there's a lot of things that we have to do. But I think it will be a gain for some marketing teams, especially in terms of productivity. Other things more related to e-com, I think that social commerce is a key trend, especially in regards to our brand that's very Gen Z focused. Gen Z is looking for frictionless experiences when it comes to shopping. So it's something that's definitely within our radar, social commerce, and how we can make sure those 44% of Gen Zers that are influenced by what they see on social media and want to purchase have the ease to purchase our product, right? And I mean, we're an energy drink, so we're trying to see how we make it all happen. And I would say another one related also to e-commerce is the buy now, pay later. Since we launched e-commerce, we decided to implement the buy now, pay later option. And more than for Gen Z, because they have a budget. For young millennials, it's been quite a good thing that we've introduced, and we've seen great results. And I think with the economic situation we have, it will be also a trend.
Yeah, for Ford, for getting that younger audience, that new audience, we're really investing into gaming and esports. That's something that we struck a deal with Rocket League, where we have special Ford skins, where it's an F-150 or a Mustang. And again, this will get that brand affinity that we're looking for that younger audience. So when they are finally able to afford a vehicle, that's something that they have these authentic, positive memories and stories of maybe playing that game or something like that. So we sponsor esports teams. We're supporting that community because we also don't want to just be there one time. We want to have a larger ecosystem around gaming and esports.
Yeah, I think for us, what we've really been focused on is this kind of concept of a connected traveler. You know, with the smartphones and mobile apps, the idea here now is we're really selling more around the full travel experience. This is not a transactional. We don't have a transactional product. You know, it's not something you're going to buy and then just walk away. It is something that we have multiple touch points that we have available, so we're consistently kind of gauging what are the right times to talk about the various parts of the journey, the travel journey, what are the right type of products that potentially we want to put in front of you, right? So if you haven't bought your hotel, if you haven't bought your car, if you haven't bought the activities on the other side, when do you want to hear about those things, right? So we're consistently in a position where we're trying to make sure that the idea now is not just sort of sell to them and then good luck and let us know how things go. We have an opportunity to continue to talk to them throughout the entire process. including on the plane as well, right? So you have sort of this, this captive audience on the plane as well. So I think we're trying to get smarter around using data to understand when the guest is actually receptive to wanting to make that purchase, as opposed to simply bombarding them all at the front end.
I know we're about at time. Do we have time for a question or two? Okay.
To struggle. I have it's a curiosity. So how do you manage budget planning for dollars invested in digital for in between drivers and the team? Because one thing that I know that for sports, usually the loyalty of the fan base, it's usually something that it's intrinsic. So even when the team's losing, you still hold your fan base, right? Like we see this in football, etc. But in Formula One, is a little bit different. When the team's losing, actually they lose the fan base. Like Williams used to be one of the top teams in Formula One, and now they're probably the worst, and they lost a lot of the fan base. So every dollar you're investing in digital, when you're putting in Alonso, if Alonso leaves the team, he's probably going to take all that audience with him. So how do you manage where you invest your dollars?
Yeah, so I mean, I think you're less dollars is more making the creative decisions on what are you supporting with regards to creating content around the cars and the brand versus the drivers. I think it's a little bit of both, and I think that the reason is, we're 3 years into this, but we have a 110-year brand with Aston Martin. So we're lucky in that our owner is also the majority shareholder in Aston Martin Lagunda, the car brand. So, when up until this year, really, we weren't a winning team, but we were an emerging team with a lot of curiosity on we're building a new facility, and I'll talk more about it in the next panel too. But I think a lot of the focus was actually on the car and the brand and where this prestige brand and stand for England and James Bond and a lot of the heritage of Aston Martin that isn't ever lost on us, and we want to continue that story because the story, drivers will come and go, but it'll be the Aston Martin brand that stays. So, that said, we're not planning on letting Alonso go. So,
Thank you. Just again, Shergul, playing off what you said, you made a comment along the lines of if you're not using ChatGPT, you're behind the mark. Maybe for you or anybody else, and I'm paraphrasing. How are you guys knowing that the database in ChatGPT is about a year and a half old, right? So 2021. How are you guys using it, or anybody else, to both connect with your customers or empower your marketing team?
so I mean, ChatGPT was a form of the lots of different types of AI that are emerging now, right? So I think first and foremost, no one is marrying up to something, but everyone is exploring the implications as well as where possible savings and efficiencies and cost savings across the organization could happen through that. But I think that you're right. I mean, it's an imperfect system, but it's one that's getting better and better faster than anything out there, and it has that seismic impact, I think, for a lot of industries out there.
Just kind of what we've done on our end already has been we've been using chat for some time now, primarily on the customer service side. So that's sort of the obvious use case in regards to being able to sort of handle a lot of the kind of standard inquiry type stuff. What we're exploring at this point is really how do we sort of shift this now into more of this travel concierge type of idea? But it's not something that we would ever think about if it was humans. It doesn't make sense for our business or for our model. But again, it's a leisure brand, and a leisure brand means that you're thinking about a broader ecosystem than simply the flight on its own. You're thinking about where you're going to stay, what are the things you're going to do, and what we see sort of the potential opportunity here is that AI can start helping to actually start directing the traffic. So when you have these sort of non-linear thinking around how people sort of, you generally sort of think about their travel, they're not necessarily just thinking about, okay, I got to buy this, then I got to buy this, then I got to buy this. They're just asking questions. They're asking questions around, hey, what would be a cool place to go? What I like to do these types of things. What could I do here?
a human would have a real hard time being able to respond to those types of things. Whereas this, using AI to be able to sort of provide sort of incentives or provide a reason to get inspired by a specific area, that might actually then start formulating, oh, in that case, I want to get a hotel here. I want to be able to do these types of things. So I think that's kind of the exciting sort of use case that I'm exploring at this point.
Perfect. I think we're out of time. So thank you to the panel. Thank you, everybody.